It's 7 o'clock. We'll get started. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. This is our 6th town hall meeting that we've held in the past 2 years since we were elected. We have, as I said, this is our 6th one. We alternate between having them here in town and having them at the Canton Municipal Hall. And we really are here just to have a dialogue, and we ask that when you come to the mic, please give your name and address. We'd like to have the opportunity for as many people here if they'd like to ask questions. So if you have multiple questions, please allow others to have an opportunity to ask those questions. And we'll open the floor.
Good evening. My name is Dean Ross. I live in Ward 2, Port Hope. My question is this. Do any of you know how much overtime is booked by the Port Hope police officers? This could be expressed as time, dollars, or a percentage of the total. The reason I ask, I believe that it is possibly over 16%. If eliminated, it would amount to a savings over a 10-year period of around $6 million, and it would be very simple to accomplish it.
I would have to check into that figure for you and get back, which I gladly will, but I do know that there is overtime, and again, overtime comes from absenteeism, sickness, and that also. But it's one of the things that can be addressed, yes.
Well, my answer is this. The reason there is overtime is the fact that the service is based on 2 12-hour shifts for 24 hours. Changing to 3 8-hour shifts will eliminate all overtime except for emergencies or scheduled events. Because if you take a look at 12-hour shifts, and I'm quite familiar with it from history of way back when I worked in the breweries, and we had multiple breweries. We had shift engineers, and there was always a problem to allocate them. But the one thing we stayed away from was 12-hour shifts, because 4 12s are 48 hours, 8 hours overtime. Have I made my point?
You've made your point, and perhaps Councillor Lees or Councillor Austin can speak in regards to the association's, the time is balanced out over a 4-week period in regards to that. So the payments are 40 hours per week over they are balanced out over a 1-month period. Did you want to?
And also, I believe your worship,
leave it on?
Trying to tell you something, Rick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
You should speak up loud now.
Okay. No.
Good.
That's the new one. It's lighting up. I have a light. I have another one right. I'll pass it down. You're behind you. I expected to have a problem at the other end. There you go. There's a switch.
Okay, thank you. Dean, in regards to the overtime and the police services board budget, a lot of that is jury time. The officers may be on their days off, therefore it's overtime for them to come back, and police services have no control over when a judge sets a trial date. A lot of that overtime is because of jury callback time.
Okay. Just in the last 5 weeks, another 34 municipalities have joined the Ontario Mayor's Coalition on Affordable, Sustainable, Accountable Policing. So today that coalition includes 114 municipalities, and at least 16 of them have seen a change to the OPP in recent years, only to find the cost has grown out of control. So my question is, why have you not invited any of them to come to Port Hope and tell us about their experience.
I know I have met with mayors, and I've also at the Ontario Police Services Board heard them speak as part of discussions at the Ontario Police Services Board meetings. And they have also made the statement, and don't get hung up on the badge. They've made the statement to the associations of municipalities. Policing is expensive, no matter what uniform that they wear. And the Mayor's Coalition, I would say, has been quite successful when you look at communities and the police. The formula used to be where sometimes they didn't change the OPP formula for up to 4 years. They have changed that now. They've just changed and introduced the new formula about a month ago. It was received at Council and at the Police Services Board over the last 2 months. And the formulas are being updated, and they are moving forward with allocating costs out to other communities. That is going to the province, as we understand.
If I could just interject, Wilf, also, they aren't the only committee that has been struck. There is another committee that has been struck, which has police officers, the chief of police, community members, etc., for all of Ontario, that are also meeting and have the government's ear, and they also, within the next 18 months, will be making an address back to the province in regards to overall policing. They admit that there is a challenge out there.
My name's Greg Miller. I live at 15 Clough Valley Street. I have it written down so I wouldn't forget any words. While so many towns are regretting the switch to the OPP because of escalating costs, why would the municipality of Port Hope want to do the same?
Well, in the past 10 years, over 16 police forces have changed from municipal to OPP because to meet the adequacy standards is very expensive, whether you're, no matter what force you are, and for a small force to meet the requirements of the adequacy standards and fund a force to those standards is expensive.
Hi guys, I'm Ron Shortlead, 25 and a half Ralston Drive. I'm going to buy the other half someday.
Can I sell it to you?
Back when we had a Port Hope Hydro, it was informed to us that we wouldn't be able to maintain Port Hope Hydro and the cost. And so we sold. And you know, we haven't saved any money yet. Coburg maintained their hydro and invited us over there. And we declined. And I'm still waiting for the savings. So my thoughts are with that. I did approach one of the councillors when we had our open house up here. Person knows who it is. And I said, why don't we fix the Port Hope Police Board? Why don't we fix the Port Hope Police? And the answer was, there's nothing wrong with them. I thought, isn't that strange? This person voted OPP. So if you care to make a comment on the person that made that statement to me, I'd love to hear it here. If there's nothing wrong with Port Hope Police, why are you voting OPP? Also, I just happened to mention, when we had a hospital, we had a meeting and the room wasn't big enough, so we went to Oshawa and we used the arena. We should have been at the arena tonight because we don't have enough room.
like to answer, and I think I have consistently said, and many of the officers are sitting back here, we have two excellent police forces. We have extremely professional officers, and they do their job very well. This is about overall costs and making sure that they have the resources and the ability, the equipment they need, and that I think as a member of council said, that we don't gut the service, that they have what they need to do their job and to protect the community.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you said that, Ron, because I can remember back when the province said about amalgamation. It's not working, and we're still not saving money on that either. And in my opinion, we haven't saved money. So a lot of times when people promise savings, they can't see the future. They promise it, but it hasn't happened. Amalgamation, in my opinion, hasn't worked. We're still divided extremely, and we're still divided. It's hard as a council to implement things that don't offend either side, but I can remember the province said, you either do it or we'll do it for you, and it hasn't saved us a cent. So I agree with you.
Well, with your worship, Mr. Shortreed, I think we've said from day one when this process started, this wasn't we have Port Hope Police against the OPP. I agree with the mayor. I was on the board for 12 years, and they both do a great service. So it's not one against the other.
Ron, I just wanted to mention in regards to Ontario Hydro, or Port Hope Hydro sale, we have put the, I believe it was $7 million that we received. It did. 9. We are using the interest of that money today. It goes to the proceeds of Ward 1, specifically to assist economic ventures, etc. And we have put it towards the library, the Capitol Theatre, and the rec center. So those funds were well used and stayed in Port Hope. Hindsight, is an excellent thing, but when we did sell it, it did help out the municipality. And further to that, again, as fellow councillors and me have said here, it's not Ward 1, Ward 2, OPP, or municipal. They both are excellent providers of the service.
I phoned Coburn. I wanted to rent a water tank. And their rental is something like $2 or $3 to rent a water tank. And they said, and what's your address? I said, I lived in the West End. And she said, what street would that be? I said, Ralston Drive. She said, I can't seem to locate that. I said, well, I'm in the West End. I said, some people call it Port Hope, but I think they refer to it as West Coburn now. There's not quite a savings they have. We don't have that savings. My hydro bill went up higher than theirs. We went on these special meters, and they must have been a year behind us. They didn't have to go on them, but we did, because we were with Viridian. And we don't even have an office to go to. We soon won't have a police station either. It's going to be closed at 10 o'clock at night. And if we have to take someone into custody, we have to leave town and go to Coburn to book them. Who looks after the police then? Do we phone somebody else? It really is really quite a thing. We're going to lose our town. That's what we're losing.
Just with regards to economic development, Ron, money from Viridian that paid for Port Hope Hydro, we do use that, as David said, for economic development issues, especially pointed in Ward 1. And I believe what we've been doing is using the interest basically for it, so the capital pretty well remains in tune. So it's still, where it started a number of years ago at $8 or $9 million, it's over $6 million at the present time.
But my hydro rate went up.
Everybody.
I think all ours did in Ward 2 as well through Ontario Hydro. All our hydro rates went up.
So we didn't save nothing there.
How many years ago was that, Ron? When did Ontario Hydro move out? And when you talk about renting a water heater, I talked to you about a few years ago. I would have sold you one. It's a heck of a lot cheaper to buy one than it is to rent one at $3 a month. Because it lasts you 10 years and it costs you under $200. So instead of paying $500 or $600 for it, you could have purchased it for $200.
Yeah, I bought mine off you.
Yeah. Is it still running?
I try to do all my business in town.
Appreciate it.
Regards water heaters. Pete Hills, Port Hope, Elgin Street North. In regards to water heaters, when I had one put in my house, I went to Ling Brothers and said, I'll buy it. And he said, no, you don't buy water heaters. I said, what do I do? He said, you rent the water heater. I said, why would I rent a water heater forever? Because it said, if I leave my house to come to your house, before I even enter your door, it's $60. And you will pay, but if you rent it, they pay. So you have to figure it out.
My name is Patricia Sanderson, and we're 318 Rideout in Port Hope. My comment is, if we really want to save money, which seems to be the sole push for you people, but a whole bunch of your comments have a little addendum in there, the province will supplement. Well, that's only my other pocket. I'm not saving anything. You have to consider that more seriously.
Actually, I think that's an excellent comment, because that's right, we do play provinces, and I know I had a council member mention that to me today in discussions, that we still pay the provincial tax. So when we call in the provincial contingent off the highways, which is not part of the contract, that is what's paying for that. And it was mentioned in regards to the police officers leaving. Unfortunately, that happens now. Unfortunately, when our 2 officers on duty have to take prisoners to wash court, they either or to a hospital or somewhere, they either have to call in the OPP to provide that service, or they have to leave the community.
We didn't move the hospital.
You're right.
Ted Heaven, Pine Street in Port Hope. From the literature that I've received, I've been unable to understand the annual process of budgeting for police services. And the question is this: if the OPP were handling the budgeting of the policing of the entire region, then they would say to the municipality of Port Hope, this is what it will cost you in the coming year. And this is, in a sense, this is my question, is this a fait accompli? Or is it, on the other hand, is it possible that the municipality would say to the police service, this is the money that we have, these are our resources, and this is what we can afford for policing, so this is what you have to live within. And so that's my question. Is there a matter of negotiation that takes place? And I'm talking about asking you in terms of an annual budgeting process, because I wasn't clear from the literature I received as to the answer to that question. Thank you.
With the OPP, the municipality enters into a contract, and there are updates every year for any changes. The municipality sets the criteria and does the negotiation. The Police Services Board works on the details of outlining any details that need to be updated or specific areas. The Police Services Board with the OPP, and then I'll talk about the Municipal Police Force. With the OPP, the Police Services Board does an annual review of the inspector, a personnel review. They are involved with community policing. There is still a community policing volunteer group. Officers are involved with that. Police Services Board gives direction as to specific areas or concerns or highlights. The annual contract does come through the municipality and is negotiated through them and for budget. And I can tell you what budgets have been proposed to date. Police Services Board, the chief and senior management of the municipal force develop a budget. They take it to the Police Services Board for review. Once the Police Services Board reviews it and approves it, they send it through to council. If council does not approve the bottom line, council can send it back to the Police Services Board. The Police Services Board is responsible to make sure there's adequate and effective policing that meets the requirement of the Police Services Act. Council can say, you can't have that much money, and if the Police Services Board does not feel that it meets adequate and effective policing, they can go to OCOPS, or to the Ontario Commission, to have them arbitrate that with the municipality.
Yeah, Your Worship, if I could, 2 years ago, council did send it back to the Police Services Board, and we took $50,000 out of their budget, and they come in over budget at the end of the year, over $100,000. And so council has sent the budget back to them, and they still are over budget. So we try to control the budget, but Police Services Board have that.
So yeah, so the Police Services Board is a kind of...
Excuse me, if you'd like to come into the mic, otherwise we would ask you to leave.
So yeah, so the Police Services Board is the arbitrating body between the council and between the OPP, correct?
No, the Police Services Board, the municipal police force, report to the chief, reports to and works for the Police Services Board. The Police Services Board is responsible for the municipal police force. Council's role is to ensure that the dollar values requested are paid for.
I'll try to figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just I thought it was going to be a smart person, but I never understand it.
Stan Smith, Blooms Grove Avenue in Port Hope. I'd like to talk response times. I assume you're familiar with the 99 percentile. Are you familiar with that?
We've had some information. I've also had some involvement with information in regards to emergency responders and the new process that's coming forward with ambulances. However, that's much different than police.
Well, the 99 percentile is for all emergency services. It's from the time a call comes in, emergency call, till the actual officer gets on the scene, 99% of the time. Now, if OPP are brought in, are they guaranteeing that 99 percentile? Will they be guaranteeing that?
All provincial standards have to be guaranteed through the OPP. And that is the intent of the same amount of officers in the same location to ensure the same response time. And that has been part of the business plan for the urban area for the past 2 business plans in regards to response time.
Now, you said in the area, if there is something outside of Ward 1, an emergency, will those officers, Northumberland OPP, respond to that? Will they go to the 401? Will they go to Grafton? Will they bring in other officers, say from Newcastle, and will that be at extra cost?
As was identified to council through the OPP, the local detachment has 24 provincial officers that are not as per contract, so they are not allocated to a specific contract area, and those are the officers that are moved.
Okay, so will they be moved out of the area? You're saying that they'll be...
The contract officers, so if the decision was made to go and Port Hope police officers were OPP,
yes,
They would be allocated to the contract in the urban area of Port Hope. They would not be allocated to the provincial. There are 24 officers in the detachment that are not associated with the contract. They are there to patrol the highways, and if overtime is needed, if someone wasn't available in a contracted area, it is the provincial officers that are moved. The answer was, how much do they cost?
At whose cost? Is that going to be municipal or provincial?
I'd really ask, if you have a question, please come forward. Okay. If the officer is moved in and you have a contract, there is no additional cost. If you do not have a contract, that is what's being moved forward with the change in the rates, that those costs will be allocated. To date, they have not. If you have a contract, they are not charged. That is part of the contract.
First of all, I want to apologize to the citizens for my outburst out in the back room.
That's okay.
I've been through all of this over all the years, and I'm a little fed up. And talk about stressful, this is the max. Okay? First of all, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
This year, we could have had more people down at the town hall. I don't know who was responsible for booking this. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. Don't applaud me, please. Do not applaud me. I'm just letting our feelings know. Everybody here thinks it. Nobody might say it. First question, Mr. Ross. Why didn't anybody up there say the OPP worked 12 hours? Nobody did. Why not? Because we have to have this top secret thing against the Port Hope Police. Please. And Mayor Thompson, how many years did you sit on the Police Services Board? How many times did we call in the OPP because we had to do a prisoner escort? I can't even count it on my both hands. I don't even think I can count them on one hand. So when you... I'm not done, Your Worship. So when you want to tell stories, let's get the facts right. Because I'm telling you right now, all this, there's nothing true about it. Thank you. And sorry, I am leaving because this is a joke.
This town hall meeting was scheduled probably over about a year ago. The 3 dates for 2011 were scheduled and met. The dates for 2012 were also scheduled, and this is the third one that we've had this year. Unfortunately, it precedes tomorrow night's council meeting. If we had gone as scheduled, perhaps a decision may have been made back in September, and this room would have been more than adequate. So probably we could apologize a bit for that, but this goes back a long time. So we've got 2 hours in here, and we'll do the best we can with it. We appreciate hearing comments from everybody, citizens, residents of the town. Thank you.
I would just like to, Wendy Goods, I would just like to address the people that are here tonight. I think we're all here because we all have a strong investment in our community. And what I'm asking on behalf of the Committee to Keep Port Hope's Police is that everyone remembers this is a question and answer session, and to please try to keep emotions in check. It's not the place.
My name is Dave Ellis. I live at 64 Hopman, and I'd like to make a comment before I make a plea to you. Comment is, my wife and I lived in an area that had OPP policing, a municipality. They were great officers, wonderful people. The problem was that response was a joke. We needed OPP one night badly. So bad that on our lake, there were residents got up in the middle of the night and left to go home. The OPP arrived the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I said to the officer, why now? We don't need you now. We needed you last night. There was a big accident on Highway 11. All the officers were tied up. That's my own personal experience, one of them. Now, what I would like to say to you people is...
And I would just comment, because, and I've heard both sides, and I don't doubt for a minute we've heard the same thing about the area from Wasaga Beach and in areas where things have happened. And I don't know what their contract situation is, and I don't think any of us do. We have one officer on in Ward 2, and on Friday night there were 4 patrol cars with police officers out, and I'm sure they were busy in town late on a Friday night also, with teenagers having quite a party and throwing beer bottles at fire trucks on Friday night. But they came here as they would go to an area there also, and they would, I mean, all of our officers would respond.
Well, I just know that Port Hope isn't as big as the area that we live in. So, anyway, what I would like to say to you, the 7 of you sitting there, and I say this politely, and I'm going to sound a little redundant, because I said almost the same thing at the meeting on the 16th. We live in a democracy. Everybody has free speech, even if it is an outburst. Whether we agree with that or not, that's our own opinion. However, each of you sitting up there was elected by a majority of voters, which is a strength of democracy. You were elected to represent our interests. Ward 1 wants the PHP, the Port Hope Police. All you have to do is go down any street and you'll see the support. Tomorrow I understand there's going to be a vote. If you are truly representing the wishes of the voters of Ward 1, you will vote to keep the Port Hope Police. Thank you.
Larry Rooney, I'm from 5 Cross Street, Port Hope. I have a question for Mr. Austin. But first of all, I'd like to make a comment, if I might, please. I believe your worship, the mayor is the chair of a committee. And I would be very pleased if you would give the other councillors a chance to speak. Because I'm tired of going to the Harbour Commission meeting, for example, and other meetings where I don't hear from the councillors. And I hope that the councillors will get up some gumption, and if they're in charge of committees or responsibilities, that's why I said right at the beginning, I have my question, and it's directed to Mr. Austin. My understanding is that you're responsible for budgeting.
Correct.
Okay. It's a question of cost. We're talking cost all the time. Now, I went to the Harbour Commission meeting, the last meeting was. There were 2 representatives from the community. They never asked a single question, to my knowledge, not one. Other councillors did, but the meeting was dominated by the mayor. I don't understand why that is, because it's a chairperson, and you should spread things around. I've been chair of different committees in the past. Okay. The second thing is, why do we have the Harbour Commission? Because my understanding is, number 1, it's a trustee for the council. Am I correct?
Well, it was put through by the province of Ontario.
But
we disbanded it a number of years ago.
Okay.
And then we had made a mistake, the council today, and we put it back in place. We had a committee of council looking after the harbour. And then we were told we had to put the Harbour Commission back in place.
But legally, is it not true that the commission is there to represent the interests of Port Hope and hold in trust the harbour, whatever properties are there?
Correct.
So which belong to the town?
Correct.
Okay. Now, we pay at the last meeting, I'm presuming, we paid for the legal costs of the Harbour Commission. We paid for the legal costs of the, the administrator of the town, who was present. We pay for the rental and everything else. Why are we duplicating our costs? I don't understand it. And I address this to you particularly because I know you are really cost conscious. Now why, if you can answer that, why do we have to duplicate services, administrative costs, and not save money? That's my question.
Well, I believe if we go back to just before the election, I got up in front of last year's council and asked the same question. Why do we need a Harbour Commission?
We don't.
Okay, the province sold the land to the municipality, or they had made a deal. That was my question as the council of the day. And they said under the Act, the Vesting Act, okay, it has to be done. So this council, if they want to get rid of it, they'll have to ask the council of the day to try to get rid of the commission and do away with it.
Now, can I ask you one further question, Mr. Ross? If the councillors, the majority of councillors, and the vote was to ask to get rid of the Harbour Commission, would that be a legitimate request that would have to be recognized?
Well, it would have to come from council. A member of council would have to ask that it be done.
I'm prejudging this. If there were enough councillors who said, look, we need to save some money here. We're duplicating our services. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 councillors and the mayor present at that meeting. Am I right? At the Harbour Commission meeting.
The only one that wasn't there was Councillor Lee's.
Okay.
The rest of the
I'm
council
sorry.
was there.
My eyesight is fading by old age. You're all right. Okay, thank you. Anyway, my point is, why? The time, the energy. I mean, I'm sure that your people are well-intentioned, but sometimes I have to question your wisdom. And I think that's legitimate. I question my own sometimes too.
Well, I guarantee you one thing. None of the 7 up here got any extra money for that meeting.
I know, I didn't say, I wasn't making that suggestion. But it's time, it's stress. So why are we duplicating the services? That's my question. I don't understand it. Because it creates cost, stress, emotion, and...
Maybe I'll ask Councillor Burns, maybe you'd like to address this.
I would love to. I couldn't agree with you more. From my perspective, since I got elected, I think at the very first meeting of the Harbour Commission, I questioned why we have a Harbour Commission. I have been through the Vesting Act too many times. You're absolutely correct. The Vesting Act clearly states that the relationship between the Harbour Commissioners and Council is a trustee versus beneficiary relationship. The beneficiary is Council, and through Council, obviously, the residents of this community. The trustee, the people who are holding that land in trust, is the Harbour Commission. The question that I have asked, and I will continue to ask, and very shortly will be asking, is why are we still having a Harbour Commission here in this community? In fact, this Harbour Commission, in my opinion, and I'm just expressing a personal opinion, has basically accomplished what the Harbour Commission not only was initially set out to do, but way past that. That was like 160 years ago. At this stage of the game, again, my perspective, my opinion, is that we're in a position where this Harbour Commission has essentially almost 90%, even more probably, completed its task of the exchange of lands with Chemical Corporation. So that land swap is almost complete. The second part is that we have now made, we meaning the Harbour Commission, as much as I did not agree with it when it was going through, I've accepted the fact that that was a decision the Harbour Commission made, and that is that the buildings will be demolished. So the 2 main functions or tasks that that Harbour Commission has had on its plate, in my opinion, are now complete. The only thing left, again in my opinion, is to serve as a landlord to collect rent for the buildings from Cameco and from the yacht club. Essentially, they're a landlord only. If it were my druthers, I'd say call it quits, dissolve the damn thing, and turn over the assets to the community so that we have some control over our harbour front.
I just made one other comment and then I'll sit down. I was very surprised, as I say, because the 2 community members, if they're here, I don't mind saying it in front of them, they never asked a single question. I think that that's correct. they seem to have very little interest. Now, if you're going to have a harbor commission, if you're going to have something, for God's sake, get people on there that want to act and want to be responsible and know what the hell they're doing. Because otherwise, they're just there for somebody else. Somebody's pulling the strings. They're not opening their mouth. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but in my opinion, those two people that were appointed, especially Mr. Peter Huffman, Mr. Huffman has been in this community for several years, and sorry, Mr. Rooney, but I disagree with you. Mr. Huffman is one of those representatives, and he's been long serving in this community. He knows so much about the harbor area. I felt when Peter was appointed as a member of the Harbour Commission, you probably couldn't get a better person, because Peter's worked in that area. He's had years and years of experience in the area. So, in my opinion, that's why Mr. Huffman was appointed, and I think he's got vast amount of experience in that area. And he lives and breathes the harbour. He has for years, and I disagree with you on that point that Mr. Huffman's one of the appointees.
Excuse me. Let me respond. I accept your disagreement. No problem. But my question was, if he is, then why didn't they participate? Why was there no questions? Why were there? Okay. And I respectfully understand people's past. But there's time for us older people to move on, because we don't have the energy, we don't have the interest. And maybe it's time for Peter and people to move on and let a younger generation that are going to be more active, more involved. I don't question his past. I was questioning the fact of that one meeting, just the one meeting. That's what I'm questioning. Thank you.
Again, I disagree with Peter and Liz. I was at that meeting. They asked several questions. Actually, I think Mr. Huffman and our good councillor, Mr. Burns, had quite a discussion between them. And again, I disagree with you on that fact about Mr. Huffman and Liz both asking questions. They both do, and they're quite active in the community, and they stay involved, and they do ask a lot of questions at the Harbour Commission meetings.
Good evening, Joe Aiello, Port Hope, Ward 1, 36 Ravine Drive. I have a two-part question. The first part is, would the mayor and council table a resolution and vote in favor to have the Port Hope Police Service police the whole municipality based on the savings submitted, excuse me, based on the savings submission put forward by Chief McAlpine on a trial basis for 3 years with predetermined scheduled reviews? If not, why not?
If I could answer that question, you may see that being put on the floor tomorrow night.
But the key word is vote in favor of. Thank you.
That's right.
Thanks for the question, Joe. Yeah, we have a motion to deal with first tomorrow night, and I can't predetermine what this council is going to vote, because, you know, this is, again, a very emotional thing for a lot of people. This is probably one of the biggest decisions this municipality is ever going to make, and I can honestly say this council, you can't determine who's going to vote for what, when. We're split every week. We get, you know, the 1 week we vote on this policing issue as a group. It's split different ways. Next week, it's the peer group. We split again. So I can't predetermine what's going to happen tomorrow night. We have to deal with the motion of option 4 on the table tomorrow night. Once that's voted on, then any member of council can bring up another motion. And again, you might see a different motion. It may be that one, Joe, and we may, you know, as long as the seconder, can't really say what's going to happen. And we have to vote on option 4 first, and then we'll see what happens after that, Joe.
I understand the process. Thank you very much for that clarification. But by the same time, with all the emotion that's up in the air, I think it's time that we take a step back. We've got some savings put forward by the chief of police. Why don't we give them a 3-year trial basis to see what the heck they can and can't do, and then make an informed decision, because by that time, the OPP will have their contract in place, their 8% or whatever is going on. There'll be a new federal election. There might be monies for other things. So I think it's time that we just take a deep breath here, step back. We can still save some money. We've got our own internal employees that are coming forward and saying, you know, here's some savings, let's see what they can do. Okay, thanks a lot.
I think the rest of council would still like to comment on that question. Sorry, but we'll come back to you. You don't have to run away. Hang on.
Joe, I just wanted to thank you. I thought your letter was very thoughtful, and I appreciate your comments, and I think we're going to be saying a lot more of this tomorrow night. I see nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with the 3-year trial period. I had a lot of reservations about this not having been an election issue in the last election. I think it just sort of came up again, and it really was not highlighted in the campaigning process.
Right.
And this, if we go for a 3-year trial period, it makes everybody accountable. It's a perfectly honest way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think too, whether it was a campaign issue or not, everybody, you can't disguise a business decision with politics, and so you got to take the politics out of this and put it through as a trial basis, and you'll know exactly what's going on, because you'll be the keepers of the keys.
Well, Joe, I'll provide you my comments on that, and I'm sure they might, and they could, as Councillor Lee says, we can all change our minds on a lot of things, but I will tell you where I'm coming on a 3-year trial. That means we have to build a new building at $3.9 million.
Why does it mean that?
3 years.
Because,
why does it mean that?
Because, have you seen the building we're asking our officers to work in right now? It has not met standards for ages. And you know what? What about the last 3 years? Have we not been doing that? I mean, when you look at, council this summer looked at the draft strategic financial plan, and that information will be coming out. And we know policing is expensive, doesn't matter who it is.
Fully agree with you on that.
And we have worked extremely hard to get costs into control, and we look at salaries and wages for municipal employees. They've actually decreased 2%, over 2%, where policing has gone up over 7%. We look at overall costs. We've asked all of our departments to tighten their belts, to be more efficient, and they've come in overall at a 1% increase versus Port Hope Police that's come in at 6.8%. So where do we cut spending then? Do we cut it in fire or roads or at the pool or the rec center or, you know?
I know, but with all due respect, Mayor Thompson, the chief proposed a plan that showed you some savings. Hold him accountable to that.
Well, I go back to the chief's exact words that and presentations that he's put forward, that we have to have a certain level of staff to maintain safety. And
we should have.
Absolutely. And we go back to the proposed budgets, because you're right, there are a lot of police services across the province that are putting many things forward through their chiefs. But when I looked at the last Police Services Board meeting, we're meeting to discuss council before the next November meeting, but what was put forward was that the Police Services Board come in with a 10% decrease. Their budget isn't that high, but the OPP come in with a 1% reduction. That's province-wide on the new formula. And the Port Hope Police came in at 3.4% increase.
Mayor Thompson, the chief put forward a presentation that was in rebuttal to the presentation that KPMG put together. KPMG showed some savings, accurate or inaccurate as they may be. The chief's numbers haven't been scrutinized or criticized in any shape, form, or whatever.
Actually,
and he's put forward.
A report did come back through to KPMG on that information. It is available.
But the numbers are the numbers. They haven't changed.
They're the base numbers in KPMG. You know, if you say it often enough.
I'm talking about Mr. McAlpine's numbers. To my knowledge, they haven't changed from based on what he presented. But the bottom line, let's not get lost in the minutiae here. The bottom line is that he's put forward a plan over 10 years that would save X number of dollars. If you give them a 3-year trial and the police service is a 3-year trial, prorate that over 3 years, then you can see exactly what's going on and you still control the whole issue. There's no negotiation, there's none of that stuff. You hold them to that and see where all the chips fall. And then when the chips are felled and counted for, then you can make a business decision. And you know, you're not going to need $100,000 study to figure that out. The other thing is, I think it's very important that, to someone else's comment here earlier, the people have spoken. And you know, I'm going to quote Abraham Lincoln, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. You can fool some of the people all of the time, and you can fool all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. So please keep that in mind. You've got all the numbers, you've got everything close in terms of everything, all the studies. The rest of us are going based on what we see every day, what happens to us every day, what we expect for service, what we saw presented at town hall meetings. So keep that in mind, and I think, you know, a trial basis is something you should truly, truly consider and truly work hard to try and get passed. Thank you very much.
Just in support, if I could, Joe, just one moment, in regards to Chief McAlpine's report. He based his on 26 people, and KPMG came back at 28, and he stresses it was at 26. So there was a miscalculation there, right from the word go.
All right, thank you.
That was P.T. Barnum, not Abraham
Thanks.
Lincoln.
Thank you for clarifying that, Rob.
Then the book I read it out of must be wrong.
Thanks, Joe. And we've had this discussion before, and we appreciate the comment. One thing I'd like to make clear is that tomorrow night we're going to have the debate.
Yep.
It's going to be the finale. We're at it, and we want to get this behind us as well. All options are on the table tomorrow night. So that's where it'll go. The discussion will go. We'll deal with option 4 right off the bat. And at that point, the way things have gone over the last couple of weeks, all options are on the table depending on how everything goes through the course of the evening. So the debate should be wholesome, and hopefully we come to a proper conclusion and a right conclusion for our municipality. The other thing I'd like to make is Port Hope's not in this alone. Peterborough's going through a similar situation. Toronto is going through a similar situation. You follow it. It's a province-wide phenomenon, and sustainability of our policing is an issue. And that's really what we're dealing with as much as anything.
And I fully understand that, but you know what? We need to look after our own backyard, and we need to understand what's going on. And because I'm a bit senior than you are, I'll give you a bit of advice. Like, you'll catch up someday. You know, you were in the retail business, and when your customers speak as a retailer, usually the customer is right. And when you don't respond to the customer, you either lose business or you get fired. Okay? Now, we're your customer here. And no, I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just putting forward here. And we're your customers here, and you need to listen to the customers. And our only way to not give you business or to fire you is through an election. And it might take us a while to write up the pink slips, but you know, you got to keep that in mind. The customer has spoken here.
Joe, we have 16,500.
Yeah, you do, but it's a democracy, and the majority of the customers have spoken.
In the municipality, we have 16,500 customers.
Correct.
Not everybody goes out front and speaks, but I think this group up here has probably spoken to a lot of people overall over the last 3-4 months, and probably more than what's in this room. So that's
there is no silent majority. The people that are
all I'm
here.
saying, Joe, is everyone has to speak. There's others that haven't spoken up in favor of Port Hope Police or in favor of OPP, but we've had a conversation with them to find out where they'd like to see this end up. So we have to take all of those things into account. So your opinion is just as appreciative as somebody else that may not have a sign on their front yard. Let me put it that way.
Fine.
One other point to make regarding Chief McAlpine's, this question was asked of him when we talked in August. He also stated that we could do the whole municipality, entire Ward 1, Ward 2 with 26 officers. The question was asked that evening. I hope it wasn't in camera. I think it might have been. But the question was asked that evening, okay, if we were to look at a hybrid option, how many officers would it take if OPP continued to contract police in Ward 2? How many officers would it take then to do Ward 1? And his answer to that question on that night, same number, 26. So that's a little bit vague in my mind, and I haven't been able to get my handle around that. So thanks for your comment.
Okay, I appreciate it very much, but just remember, democracy is the majority that rules. Thank you.
So maybe.
Well, I guess Greg will be next, so I'll stay up here. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to speak next. If the vote tomorrow night, okay, comes first, all the pressure's on me. Not these other ones. My vote is going to be the difference. Well, why have the ratepayers been emailing me steady?
I haven't even talked to you.
Well, I didn't. But anyway, if you say it's a democracy, then if I'm going to change my vote, I've been listening to the people in Ward 1. They want Port Hope Police. Also, the emails that I received from the Ward 2 people, they're happy with the OPP. So if I'm going to do anything, I will vote for hybrid police. Because I'll listen to both wards. Not just Ward 1, I'll listen to Ward 2 also. That's where I stand.
I guess you can stand there, but it's, you know, 2 feet and 2 puddles, I guess. I don't
You
know.
asked the question where we stood, so I give you an answer.
Oh, that's fine. Yes, Greg.
My response is I was the one that asked that question that Deputy Mayor Gilmer was referring to.
Which question again?
The question was that the chief at the meeting, I believe it was in August, made a presentation about his revised budget.
Yes.
And he basically indicated that he could do Wards 1 and Ward 2 with his existing complement. My question at that point in time was, let's just, for the sake of debate or argument, say that OPP continued to offer services in Ward 2, then what kind of reductions would we expect from you in Ward 1 if in fact you feel that with 26 you can do the entire area, recognizing, and from my perspective, 95% of the geography of the community is Ward 2, about a quarter of the population is in Ward 2. The question I asked, and I thought it was a decent question, was then what kind of reductions could we expect if you were only to do Ward 1? His response, as the Deputy Mayor has indicated, was I would still require the same complement, and that's where I had a problem with it. And let me finish as well.
Sure.
You had indicated, why don't we try a 3-year trial? I've looked at the past 5 years, okay, of what the Port Hope Police Service has done, and I'm laying it on the shoulders of the Police Service Board that, in my opinion, they have not stepped up to the plate, because the bottom line is, for the past 5 years, each budget that's been set and established and approved by council for policing in Ward 1, each of the past 5 years, that budget has come in at the end of the year over budget. So my comment is, in a sense, we've already gone through that trial period from my perspective. From my perspective, we've already gone through a trial period. They haven't given or shown me any faith in that sense for the past 5 years that they can stay within that budget.
What's the guarantee that the OPP won't come in over budget? What's your guarantee? Nothing. So why wouldn't you just take the chief's proposal where he shows the savings? Because you're basically looking at a KPMG proposal.
You asked me to comment, and I'd like to.
Well, I'm commenting back.
I recognize that, but you haven't given me the opportunity to conclude my comment. You asked about the OPP.
I have to interject because I'm old and sometimes I forget.
But I think I'm older than you. So here's
I'm
some
older
advice.
than both. Perhaps.
Okay? The bottom line is the OPP this past year, and I can't speak for years past, actually in fact gave us money back.
Well, that's because they weren't here patrolling. That's why you get the money back.
That's your opinion. Okay?
But that's the truth. You know that.
The bottom line is, my position on something like a 3-year trial period, we've already gone through that. I'm not happy with the overall figures for the past 5 years.
You get a refund because they weren't on duty, and that's why they give you back a refund. So I mean,
just to clarify, the Port Hope Police budget, and in the last years they have budgeted, and they budget to their actual numbers, as Councillor Turpin. He was previously the chair of General Governance and Finance prior to 2 years ago, and he is currently on the Police Services Board.
Right.
They budget their actual dollar values now for policing, and they had done that previously. So their numbers are very actual and very tight, but they budget very tightly. You're correct, the OPP, when they budget to the highest level. So the most expensive officer. And then they come in at the end of the year under budget because they charge actual. So the budgeting process is different, and that is part of that rebate each and every year.
So basically, they're highballing you and giving you a refund so you feel good.
Well, actually, and other councillors that have sat on general governments, they give you the estimate at higher, and we have budgeted every year, approved in our budget, a lower cost than what they provide.
Yeah. You know what? I think if everybody could budget right on to the bottom line, we probably wouldn't need any governance whatsoever. But anyway, the point I'm making is that the police chief has put forward a proposal with some numbers in it, and I'm only asking you folks to consider that on a 3-year trial basis, because we can debate this all night long. But I think it's an option that you really, really, really can't afford not to look at very, very seriously. Thank you very much.
If I could just add to Joe's comment, this is Chief Ralph in the second year, and his budget is very tight this year. He was very close to the line last year. We cannot predict what's going to happen in the criminal mind or how busy the sales are going to be, etc. But I can say this year again, from the Police Services Board, as being a member, our budget right now we are forecasting under, and we're hoping that it will hold that line if our citizens or outside people hold that line. So my compliments to the chief and the force, because again, this is only his second year. And if we're talking about years before, I can't comment on that.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Take care.
Dean, there's somebody else. You've had your turn.
My name is Nick Sullivan. I live on Hope Street North here in town. And as mentioned earlier, and as we've all seen, there's been a tremendous amount of support to keep the Port Hope Police Service. With that said, my question to City Council is, excuse me, after seeing this support, why would City or Town Council not hold a referendum on policing?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, my opinion is there is an election every 4 years, and seeing as how we've done that 6 times, and I actually calculated it out, I know for Councillor Lee's and I's, just under 6 years of the 12 years we've been on council, we've been dealing with this issue.
Well, council, the way it's set up, in the Municipal Act, council makes the decision on what police service is going to do the municipality, and then allocates the budget allotment to them basically, and the Police Service Board works on that budget. So it's in, to hold a referendum on it, we should have one. This would be the 6th one in 12 years or so, if that was the case. Well, we could have had 6 others, what you're suggesting.
Dean, you have been up, so make it very, very quick. There are other people behind you.
This will be very short, I promise. This is further to the Chief of Police's submission to Council. I've already made a submission to Council. I hope you've all received it and read it. And to make it very succinct, the Chief said that right off the bat, that there would be no $700,000, which is what Ward 2 is now paying for the police services of the OPP. That's a basic figure. And actually, what the chief said, there won't be any reason to have the $700,000 anymore. So we save $700,000. How is he going to pay then to police Ward 2 if he hasn't got that $700,000? In fact, it would end up being much more, because we would then have, in Ward 2, we'd have to be paying for some of the other services that are involved in the policing, if it's all Port Hope Police Services. So that was a big fault, and I think that Burns put it in a little different atmosphere than I put it in. That if he's going to be able to do all of Ward 1 and Ward 2 with the staff that he's got now, X number of police, why can't he just do Ward 1 with about 4 less police?
That's what he said.
Thank you.
Oh boy, where do I start?
Your name. Start with your name.
My name is Denis Berger, live at 81 Graham Lane. Most people here that elected you guys put a lot of faith in your capacity, your knowledge, your intelligence, your intuition. But we're starting to have doubts. When you have to put together a gathering like tonight, a question and answer, which was so much in need. And you know how many people we've had in the past. We had the city hall filled up to capacity, with people standing outside, with people sitting on the floor. What do we have today? We have this ill-prepared question and answer, which almost seems to be put together on purpose to get less capacity than town hall. To have people blindsided over there. People kept in the dark.
Do you have a question?
Hold on. Meanwhile, there's about 7 people doing aerobics on the other side, which they could have done in here. So we don't understand this, okay? It could have been done better, but it wasn't. And now we're going to trust that you guys are going to make the decision on policy. Mr. Burns, I need to correct you on something. We haven't tried out the tryout that was suggested. So don't come and say that we did, because we did not, okay? That's very important that you understand that, because if you think you did something and you didn't, and you base your decision on that, that's a mistake. That's a big mistake. Now, I would like to know where else we're saving money, because if this is about money, and I remember a year ago, almost exactly, in Canton office, I asked Mr. Austin, and he said he was actively working to save money. So my question is, where else are we saving money?
Our financial report came in, we're $600,000 to the good in the last year. So we're saving money. All our municipal departments come in at 1%. Okay? They were fiscally responsible. We come in with a real good bonus this year. So we saved $600,000. So we're saving money.
Okay, I think we're going to need to save a little bit more if we want to keep the police force that we have now, police force that can answer on time. And also, it needs to be pointed out that when Chief McAlpine made his offer, if you remember, he also said that the reason he would need the same number of employees to continue doing policing in Ward 1 is because the way of the scheduling is done. Sometimes you hear that it takes 1.6 man-hour or 1 point, you don't hire 40% of a person. It just doesn't work that way. So in some case, if you need enough people to do your job, you need to hire a little extra, not less. And I think that's what he meant, that he could not operate in town with less people, but he could do both work with the same number of people, and I believe him on this. Thank you.
Just to review a comment that was made earlier. When you're talking about, and what Rick is talking about, and for Denny, overall, in the last 3 years, the facts are that every department, every other department in this municipality, that includes library, public works, economic development and tourism, up and down the list, planning and development, the increase in spending has been 1% over the last 3 years. Whereas in police, the increase has been 6.7 or 6.8% over the same period of time. Just so those facts are there. Those are facts. Jeff, you were going to say something?
Just, Mr. Berger, you come up every issue that comes up, and you criticize council continuously, and you're entitled to that. That's good. That's your opinion. I just want to say, this isn't an easy decision. None of them are. We have many as a council that come up. We have many decisions. They're all hard decisions. We're not all experts like some people that are out in the audience, we're just day-to-day people. We do the best job that we can. That's why you have an election. So, you know, if you don't feel at the end of the day that these people up here, any of us, are doing a good enough job for you, Mr. Berger, or anybody else there, that's why you have an election. And you come up every time, every issue that comes up, you always say that council's not doing this, council's not doing that, and you're entitled to your opinion. But that's why we have elections. And that's why, you know, just like anybody else, if you don't like the job that council's doing, you vote them out. That's what you do. But you know what, to criticize us every time, these people all dedicate a lot of hours. If we were getting paid by the hour, it'd be, you'd owe us a lot more money than what you are. And I take exception, because I know some of us, we put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, and continually you come up and criticize us. This is not an easy job up here, and I hope to see lots of people run in the next election, including yourself, sir. I hope to see you run in the next election.
Okay, you know, it would be really nice. You could use this almost every single time somebody goes to the mic. Just say, if you think you can do a better job than me, why don't you come over? All right, it's kind of, it makes about as much sense as when I complain about unsafe and unhealthy conditions General Motor when I worked there, and my boss says, why don't you quit if you don't like it here? All right, that's about as much sense as you make on this. If there's different kind of criticism, okay. There's criticism that you might agree with. There's criticism that might actually make you change your mind. And then there's bad criticism. If my criticism is wrong, when I say it, I would appreciate you give me some feedback. And if it is right, I expect the same. Okay? Sure. But with a lot of the decision that's been made lately, people are losing their faith in you. And it's not just as simple as saying, you know what, you think you can do a better job, you come. You guys voted on keeping the building on the pier. And then people thought, hey, the process works. And then they got lambasted with a little behind the scene that changed everything. So it doesn't really matter how much work we do, how much value there is to what we do. Some people, if they really want to, they can completely put it down, and they don't even have to rationalize
it. Again, I appreciate your opinion, but I don't agree with it. There was no, you want to talk about the pier thing? You know what, no. This is different, completely split. I couldn't, you know, some people said, well, you know, so-and-so is going to vote this way and that way. I couldn't have told you that night who was going to vote for what. I had no idea. And so to say that, you know, these are the backdoor meetings and stuff, there was no backdoor meetings in that at all. The pier was a completely different issue. We split a completely different way than we had on the pier issue. Or on, sorry, the policing issue. And it happens all the time with this council. You don't know who's going to vote for what at any given day. So when people like yourself say that there's backdoor meetings and stuff, that's not true. I don't remember having one backdoor meeting with any of these people about the pier or policing or anything. I was not part of any backdoor meetings.
Well, if I remember correctly,
there was a backdoor meeting, sir. There was none, and you're incorrect.
Okay, all right, I'm incorrect. Not long ago, people made decisions, and you were the last one to find out. So you can't say that those things don't happen. Even in an open council, those things happen. Okay, but if you think this is important enough as a topic, then put it up the next election. Run on it.
If I could just qualify in regards to a comment that our Deputy Mayor, Mr. Gilmer, made, and I can, again, only really speak on the last two. I guess I can go back as government and finance. But in the last 3 years, we did have some major deficiencies that we had to improve in our police station, and part of those were part of our budget increases.
Thank you.
Hi, Ed White, Mill Street.
Turn the mic down, please. Yeah, thank you.
I'd just like to, a couple of comments on things that I've heard tonight. Perception is very important. Reality. And I'm a little worried about Port Hope. How are we going to fix this? Whatever way the decision goes, Port Hope has a problem. I don't know whether you guys have some kind of plan or something, but this town is split all over the place. It's hard to get things done in town now. You got Ward 1 against Ward 2. You got people that want the town cops, people that want the OPP. No matter what way you go, we got the biggest issue is the way the town is split up. So we need to do that. Now, with respect to Mr. Austin, a comment he made tonight is kind of exactly what I was talking about when he said that this is not a case of the town police against the OPP. Because from my perspective, and from a lot of people that I've talked to, everybody understands that both police forces are good at what they do. Nobody has any kind of issue saying that one police force is better than the other. That's not what people are saying. People are saying they want to keep the Port Hope police force. Not because one is better than the other. Just simply because it is the Port Hope police force. We want, Mr. Austin said that it's not that issue. It is that issue, and that goes back to my idea of perception. What you perceive as a problem seems to be different than what I perceive as a problem, or what others that I've talked to perceive as a problem. That's a problem. So we're not looking at things the same way. How do we fix that? How do we get on the same page? Because we're not on the same page. People are talking money. People are talking emotions. None of it is making any sense because everybody's so embedded. But it's all in perceptions. We've had 6 times this has come up. I don't remember once ever being an issue with the people of Port Hope. The police issue. I don't remember any of those things ever being brought up by the people. I don't remember any campaigns in the newspaper. I don't remember letters to the editor. I don't remember any of that stuff on any of these 6 times that this has been brought up. So if it's a money thing, then when you look at it, we should keep the police, the town police, because that's what the people want. We want our taxes saved. You talk about a marina, talk about spending millions of dollars on a marina. People I've talked to have said, well, if they get rid of the town cops, they're only going to spend the money on the marina. So where do we get any savings? To me, it's all perception. We got to try and figure out a way that everybody is on the same page. Because it's just, I don't know, it's just mixed up. So I got to leave it to you guys. What are you going to do to fix this? Because it is a big deal. There's the other comment I wanted to make was just simply, I don't like the idea of threats or any of that kind of thing. When people talk about there being 16,000 people in the town, my experience over many municipal elections is you got, what, a 30% turnout? Well, you can be pretty much guaranteed that 100% of these people are going to turn out, and 100% of the people that have signs on their front lawns are going to turn out. So when you're dealing with all those people, you got to remember who's actually going to vote. Not threatening anybody, I'm just saying perceptions again. The silent majority is exactly that, silent. They don't even come out and vote. So, all I'm asking you guys is figure something out to get this town back together again. Because
can I respond? The police situation and issue has reared its ugly head mainly, in my opinion, for 2 reasons. Number one, during budget discussions, we talked about the Port Hope Police Department requiring a new facility. So we wouldn't be doing the proper thing if we went ahead and built a police facility and, let's say, 2 years from now, decided to look at who's going to do the policing. So that's number one. Number two, it is a tax issue. And during the last election, I think most of these people up here and anybody that ran, heard from people time and time again about their taxes. And when we're dealing with the police department, we're dealing with approximately 1/3 of our overall operating budget. And our operating budget is $14 million a year. It has been for the last 2 years. And it's probably not going to grow a whole lot. So as long as the police continues to rise, it's going to eat into more of that $14 million. So each other department, and the numbers speak for themselves, have had to come down slightly, work with less, whatever. So that's why we're into this police discussion, in my opinion. And then the other thing, about pulling the town together, we should stress some of the positives that we have going here. From an economic development point of view, we have an idea hub down it that we took a lot of abuse from. The previous councillors, and at the start of this council, we took abuse time and time again. We now have 16 startup companies down at the former Matthews conveyor plant, employing 46 full-time individuals, and over, I want to say 70, but I'll say 50 to be conservative, volunteers and other people working with them. And those are startup companies coming from all over southern Ontario that are here in Port Hope right now. That's a good news story, and that's what's going to pull this town together. We have a downtown revitalization project that we're just getting on the ground. We've got funding from the provincial government of over $120,000, and that is to employ a coordinator who's leading that project, and that project's just getting underway. He's hired for over 2 years, and that project over the next while is going to help pull this community together. We have an investment from the ACO of over $250,000 for the next 3 years to help improve our downtown. We have a private donor investing a lot of money in the former Walton Hotel building to help in our downtown. Those are the things that are going to pull this town together. So those are some positives. Let's not lose them in the police debate.
No, I understand.
Okay?
I understand what you're saying that way, but the other side of the thing is the idea hub doesn't affect me on a daily basis. Okay, those people are not hiring my son. Maybe they would 10 years from now, but they're not right now.
Hopefully it's not 10 years ahead. So hopefully that the idea of the idea hub, it's a 3-year grow out. So as those companies move forward, hopefully they're going to settle in our community, or if not in our community, in our area, in Northumberland County perhaps, and expand. And the idea of the idea hub is to get things off the ground. And those are startup companies. Some of them have you ever looked at these guys? They've got some tremendous ideas, some great projects on the go. And hopefully that's the future. That's not the way we did things, you and I, in our businesses years ago. But these guys are living a different dream. And hopefully we can facilitate them to get off the ground and branch out into the community. So just using that as an example. That's just
I would just like to see, you know, like you say, more positive stuff. I'd like to see.
Let's stick with that.
Well, yeah, I'd like to see you, you know, get people together in town, because it's certainly split apart now, and you got a lot of work. We've all got a lot of work.
My name is Dorothy Crawford. I live on Crossley Drive.
Turn the mic down. Just tip it toward you. Tip it toward you. You don't need to do that. Just tip the mic.
Thank you. I came to Port Hope in 1974, so it's almost 40 years I've lived here. And when I came here, I did not like Port Hope, but I do love Port Hope now. It has grown on me, and I don't really want to have to leave. I do not want to be policed by an Ontario government police. I want to be policed by the Port Hope Police. It's very tender to my heart. I'm just a Joe Blow taxpayer here, like a lot of the people in the room. I have not asked most of the councils for much for my tax dollar, but I am asking you tomorrow night to retain our Port Hope Police. I don't understand how you take 184-year institution of our community and disband it like it's nothing. The recommendation tonight, or the suggestion tonight, was to try our Port Hope Police and extend it into Ward 2. I think that's a tremendously wonderful idea. You can, 3 years down the road, you can see how it goes. You can even plan for a referendum, because we do live in a democracy. If the people in Ward 2, and I know there are people in Ward 2 who want Port Hope Police, but I mean, perhaps the council people from Ward 2 can speak to their constituents. 3 years down the road, I mean, it can change. But the thing is, once you disband something that's gone, it's gone forever, 184 years. Now, it was mentioned tonight that the Port Hope Police Services has been over budget for the last 5 years. In my job, in my career, when I was over budget, I was hauled in. And I'm wondering if has there been serious conversations with the Port Hope Police? You say that they present the budget to you, and then you approve or disapprove. So has there not been serious discussion over the last 5 years about the fact that they were over budget? Would be my question.
I would just comment. The Port Hope Police Services Board have report, I believe it's twice a year, and they have came to the Budget Committee and dealt with the issues, as Councillor Turk commented. As was identified, there was a huge amount of work to bringing the force up to meet the Police Services Act, and as the Chair said previously, there's a lot more work to do. All of the issue and work that's been done has been identified in the past 2 business plans, which the past council and this council had received copies of and had the opportunity to provide input into. And as I noted, the Chair of the Police Services Board provides information to council each year, and justification is brought forward for overages.
Okay. I do want to add that I think that we are very lucky to have Chief McAlpine as the chief. He has a fabulous reputation, he knows about budgets, a very honorable person. And I think Port Hope's very lucky to have him.
Could I add one thing just before you go on to the next subject? It's interesting, if you go back and do a little research in 2008, at the end of the last vote, the last time this was looked at, and the result that came out of that was that it was voted down, and it was basically that savings, efficiencies were going to be looked at by the Port Hope Police Department. And it was asked by council to staff to come back to staff. Now, I don't know the reason that it didn't get done at that time, other than to say something must have come up on the plate, et cetera, et cetera. But in 2008, the result of the last vote on the police issue, these same items were identified at that time. I just want to put that out there.
So does that go back to the Police Services Board?
Well, I'm not looking to blame anybody, just saying that's where it is. My opinion is let's go forward. Let's make our decision on where we're going to go forward. But if you go back and look up for June of 2008, you'll see quotes in the local newspaper that talk about tax savings, tax efficiencies, all types of efficiencies that were asked for at that time. And they haven't occurred. So.
Okay, the other thing that was mentioned is about building a new police station when Mr. Aola said something about the 3-year trial, and you talked about the police station. As I understand it, is there not some sort of fire study taking place? It was mentioned at one of the meetings I was at. I don't know if it was a council meeting or committee of the whole. Okay. So why wouldn't you look at building a facility in conjunction with the fire and the police? This would save costs, you know, architect plans for both buildings and all this, and I think Mary Lou Ellis, I think you mentioned that too at one meeting. So you could look at that. Okay. I think that's really all I have to say. Oh, there is one other thing. Severance costs. Do we know what the severance costs would actually be if you did go OPP?
I don't have the exact numbers, but both the municipal lawyer and the Port Hope Police Services Board lawyer looked at that, and that information has been provided.
Okay, I'm sorry, one other question. In the mailing that we got today, it talks about conversion costs. What would be in conversion costs? Like what type of costs are in conversion? Sorry, I don't know about these things, so.
Depending on whatever was chosen, there would be, if the Port Hope Police Service were moving out to Ward 2, there'd be additional vehicles that may be required. Part of the business plan in Ward 2 calls for 14 hours ATV and or snowmobile coverage, those sort of things. If there was additional officers, if it was OPP, there would be training and material, you know, uniforms, whatever it may be, personal.
Do they use the same guns? Or do they use the same guns?
Yeah, I can't remember. You remember we got new guns?
Sorry.
No,
okay.
they don't.
All right. Just one other comment. I am tired of the Ward 1, Ward 2. I call it War of the Wards. wards. I'm very tired of it as a taxpayer. I live in this municipality. When I moved here, it was a town. Now it's a municipality. We are supposed to be one. So I say to you, wouldn't it be a good idea to start with our policing and have it for the whole municipality, to eliminate the wedge between the two wards?
Well, and I think that's what was recommended by the Police Services Board, to make a decision on one police force.
Or the other. And hopefully you'll
one
choose...
police force,
yes.
Whichever that is.
Right, and I think that would hopefully try to eliminate the wedge between us. We're too divided. It's never going to end. So please, tomorrow night, go for Port Hope Police Services, please. At least give them a 3-year.
Ian Montagnes, Baldwin Street. God knows I've been critical enough of the council over the years, and I want to support what Jeff Lee said. I recognize the vast number of hours that are involved, the vast number of phone calls, hectoring, and I wouldn't do it, but I still feel I have the right to criticize.
Ian, I just have to make that comment. You make in regards to majority, and some comments by Ed. We are a really diverse community who isn't afraid to stand up and say what they think, which is a good thing.
Yep.
And the community doesn't always agree, and neither does council. So I guess we do represent the community.
Well, maybe. I'm not sure. I find myself disturbed by the fact that the deputy mayor says he can't get a handle on the chief's proposal, that he can still do it, that he can police both wards with the same number of people. And I am disturbed by the fact that if he can't get a handle on it, but he's still willing to make a decision based on that fact. This is not an... I have a question for, I think it's Councillor Turcotte should go to. Can you tell me how many full-time, what we used to call full-time employees, the OPP has in Ward 2? What do they budget for? How many people do they budget for?
Right now we have 4.3.
4.3.
4.3.
Because there is a shortage. But in fact, we don't use all of them because we get a refund. How big is the refund?
But to clarify, just as with any police force, when we needed 4 cruisers at an incident Friday night, we had them, and we've had other issues like that in both wards.
But still, how many do we have after the refund? Of the $700,000, how much do we get back?
It varies.
Are we
probably
talking hundreds
about,
of thousands?
No.
We're talking under 100,000.
Much less. I think 2022, 29.
70,000 2 years ago, and then it was 20 just this last year.
Because we cut the budget substantially.
Yes.
The thing that I think troubles us all is that we understand this argument that all the other departments have kept budgeting down by 1%, and the police are going up. But this is a story that you find in every municipality that has its own police force, or a province which has its own police force. No police force is being cut back, although there are efforts. John Sewell wrote a very good book, which I doubt anyone here has read, on exactly this question and where efficiencies could be obtained. What I cannot understand, and I think what most of us cannot understand, is why Council believes that the OPP will not be going up 6.1 or 8.6 or 10.6%, because we know the province is asking them to do better with cost recovery, and we know that they are the highest paid police force in the province. And ultimately, this comes down to a question not only of support for the Port Hope Police Service, but of distrust of the OPP. And I do not think you will do anything to mend the feeling of the town, the splits in the town, if we are faced with a police force that a large number of the residents distrust.
if I might, and other council members may have comments, in regards to, you're right, there could be increases in either area. That's absolute true. But please remember, we have a long history and experience with the Port Hope Police Service, and we have a long history and experience with the OPP.
We have a new police chief.
Yes, we have. And I know Councillor Lees was on Police Services Board when he was hired. Councillor Turk has been there for the past 2 years.
Chris Wallace, Walton Street. I'd like to stand behind Larry Rooney's questions about the need for the existence of the Harbour Commission, and I'd like to speak a little bit further to that. We had a situation very recently where a non-elected body overturned the ruling of an elected body, and I think that's pretty disturbing to a lot of people on the grounds of democratic process. And at this point, it's not just about whether a building on the pier gets saved or not. Some of us care about that, some of us don't. I fully respect that, but the argument has been made for a long time that the Harbour Commission is totally independent, can do what it wants, and the justification for that is the Harbour Vesting Act. If you read the Harbour Vesting Act, and it is tiresome reading, lawyer talk is tiresome at the best of times, but 1853 lawyer talk, but when you read it, it's obvious that the Harbour Commission is not independent of council. The words are right there in black and white. It holds the land in trust for the municipality. The books are public books audited by the auditor of the municipality. Any surplus funds must be returned to the treasurer of the municipality. Well, we're not talking about an independent body. We're talking about two bodies joined at the hip. And I think it's wrong to pretend that the Harbour Commission is independent to the point that it can ignore the will of council. And I find it particularly disturbing that it's two unelected members of the Harbour Commission whose votes have overturned the legitimate will of council. And Mr. Lees, before you feel the need to defend Mr. Huffman and Ms. Stewart, they're good people. That's right. They've worked hard, they've been on a lot of committees. There's absolutely no personal criticism of them. But should the future of our waterfront, I thought I'd get the sorry about that. Is it appropriate that the future of our waterfront should be put in the hands of non-elected people?
Well, other council members, and I'm sure will have made several comments, but today is different than 1853, very much so. And whether and the intent then and the intent today you're absolutely right, could be absolutely different. But the Vesting Act still identifies that the Harbour Commission is the owner. And the owner of the rights today and then are different. And I know you and I disagree on that, but there has been challenges and legal opinions, and council is now seeking their own, and there'll be discussion. But until council directs further and requests of the federal government to rescind the Vesting Act, that's what's standing. And as chair, I will stand for that decision that's moved forward. If council moves to change it and the Vesting Act changes, that will be the decision that we will move forward and we will all support.
The Harbour Commission does own the land. I've checked land title. The land title's office at Coburg. It clearly owns the land. I don't disagree with that. But in accordance to the exact wording of the Vesting Act, the original members of the Harbour Commission were hereby authorized to take and receive the proper conveyances in trust for the sole and only use and benefit of the said town council. They own it in trust. They don't own it free and clear. And in trust implies, I'm not a lawyer, but as I understand it, in trust implies that you respect the wishes of the beneficiary. The beneficiary's council. If you don't respect the wishes of the beneficiary, isn't that breach of trust?
That's right.
Yeah, Chris, you and I have had the discussion and may agree to disagree on some things and agree to agree on some things. Can you answer for me why did Oshawa institute a Harbour Commission only 2 years ago for the ability to do things that council couldn't do, economically, all of those things? Even the peer task force in some of their recommendations said should look at moving that forward in a different way in regards to economic development, in regards to if there was a, what do they call it in Toronto, it's the Port Authority in Toronto, but that sort of thing. I mean, maybe that will be something that moves forward.
I can't speak to the Oshawa situation because I'm simply not familiar with it. There has been talk about waterfront initiatives to mirror the downtown initiatives, the revitalization program. And I think that's absolutely wonderful, and I congratulate all of council for doing that. But if you've got council saying, let's do it this way, and Harbour Commission saying, let's do it that way, we're not moving forward, we're jumping up and down.
Well, let's be clear on that. Since 2001, through official plans, through the redevelopment, all of those things, councils all through those years have said there needs to be a connection, there needs to be a build between, there needs to be long-term planning. And that's about official plans and these things. That's not new.
I appreciate that.
You're right. The centre pier is a portion of that. It's a large portion. But the overall development and the planning and the zoning is council's responsibility, whether you are the landowner or someone else or the Harbour Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. I don't have any problem with council assuming that full responsibility, and I think it's wonderful that it's happening. I still have a problem with a non-elected body who are not independent presuming to overrule council's direction as council moves forward with these very, very worthy initiatives.
Yes, Terry Hickey with the Ratepayers Association. There have been a number of comments tonight relating to Ward 1 and Ward 2. And it's interesting to see how many people still refer to Ward 2 as Hope Township and Ward 1 is Port Hope, whether they do it on purpose or not. So I've got kind of a two-part question that's even subdivided, but we'll do what we can. The first thing, and it's I don't want to get into much theory on this, but when amalgamation occurred, it was something that was forced upon both entities. There was no choice. What I want to know is, when that happened, was there ever any plan in place to try and bring the two components of the municipality together, at least attitudinally? So in other words, there's always this disparity between Ward 1 and Ward 2. It's an us and them approach to life here. And this approach is going to be taken to a new level of interest with the area rating. That comes to the second part of the question. And that is, if someone could just simply say, for all the people here, what is this area rating issue all about in a nutshell? What's being done to address it? And then finally, what's the anticipated, hoped for, expected outcome? There must be some sort of goal there somewhere. Because I think that's going to go a long way to either assist or increase the disparity between Wards 1 and Ward 2. So, if you remember all my questions, what do you think?
Well, I'm sure other members will comment on it. Mine is, I wasn't on the transition board, but Councillor Lees and Councillor Austin was. However, I did attend a lot of the meetings, and that's actually why I'm sitting here. Was there discussion about how to bring the community together? Absolutely. Have we made some progress? I think we've made a lot. We took a lot of years working on fire department and some things. Are there still a lot of huge areas that are not? You betcha. There sure are. And we need to continue to become one. In regards to area rating, what is it? It's about paying fair value for the services that you receive. And the rural area is about the rural factor. I'm going to stop there and make a personal comment. I believe the rural area makes the urban area stronger, and I believe the urban area makes the rural area stronger. That's my how I live with amalgamation, because I do believe that's true. There is a rural factor, and Mr. Belgian's behind you, and he will tell you his cows don't swim in the rec center.
They better not. That's an invitation, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So for me, simply, area rating is about the principles that were outlined at the time about paying for this, not being burdened with costs that you are not a part of. What the area rating process is working about, is looking at, is making sure that the formula that was identified in 2001 has kept pace with change. My personal opinion, and the opinion of many, is that it has not. And that's why it's being reviewed. But in a nutshell, those little words, it's about understanding the rural factor and the urban factor.
Now, that's been going on for a bit. How is that process working out right now? How are you coming on that?
Like policing or others, very interesting topics, and people have very entrenched feelings, but I do believe we're starting to see a process move forward. But I look to Councillor Lees, you were there way back then.
Again, just the whole transition with amalgamation, both urban and rural, it's very hard to mix the two in one community, because like Mr. Belgian, I don't open my windows every day and look at a cow, outside my window. But, it's very hard. We've been trying, I agree with the mayor, there's some things that we've done, we've tried to get the two fire departments together. Maybe, the option of policing, it might be the issue to help again bring the issue together. It may not, we'll find out tomorrow night. Some things, I think as a council, I'll take some of the bad feelings about it. I think we could have done more in the last 11 years. It's been tough. We've tried. People are entrenched in the rural and urban settings, but as a council, I think we could have done more, and I think as this council, we need to do more to get the two sides together. And you're right, there is people that's still going to be, it's Hope Township and Port Hope, it's always going to be that way, but you can't change that. But with time, hopefully, we can work these things out and hopefully get it better. We've been trying, but I think we need to work harder at getting the two sides together as one community, because it's not working right now as far as I can see. And these issues, when they do come up, it makes it even harder. And I hope, like I said, people don't get too entrenched in these things, because I'd like to see us as one community eventually and get rid of the whole Ward 1 and Ward 2 things. I don't agree with it. It hasn't worked, and I don't think it's gonna for a long time.
Terry, you and I have had some good discussion about this particular issue of Ward 1 and Ward 2. For those that are in the audience that don't know where I came from the city of Cambridge, which in 1973 was amalgamated from Galt, Preston, and Hespeler. There are still people, I lived there for 26 years, there are still people, when they write their address, put Cambridge, brackets G for Galt, H for Hespeler, P for Preston. And that's 1973. It's one of those things that with a community like that, even the ward system is built on Preston, Hespeler, and Galt. So it's deeply entrenched. I saw it firsthand when I moved here 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago, and decided to run for council. I was hopping farm fences in Ward 2 and introducing myself to some of the people on tractors, etc., and just sort of saying, I'm running for Ward 2. And what I heard from a lot of people is, no, you're not, you're running for Hope Township. And it took me a while to get used to the fact that I had to basically respond, no, it's Ward 2. And signs were changed, I think, in the last year and a half that actually showed Hope Township on number 28 years after the amalgamation has occurred. So it will take some time, and I would agree with you. We need to work at that. Ed expressed it, I think, really well, is that, that there's something intrinsically wrong that we need to address. And I, from a ratepayer's point of view, anyone in this room, I'd love to see that happen. I happen to live in the northern part of the community, but I still see this no different than when I was in Cambridge for 26 years, working for the municipal government and then working in the college next door. I lived in Cambridge. I always identified that I lived in Cambridge, not in the Gulf section. And I don't identify myself as Ward 2. I live in Port Hope. Thank you.
If I could, I like to think I have a bit of the Donnie and Marie syndrome.
Let's not talk about looks here, okay?
I won't even sing it, I promise you. But I spent many a summer growing up in Garden Hill. My grandparents had the general store. I have many good friends out there. And at the same time, I was raised in Port Hope. I'm one of the fortunate ones that I think I can get over it and say we are Port Hope as a whole. And I look forward to us being together. Having served my first term under government and finance, I realized back then we didn't realize Wesleyville that was supposed to come true with industry and hydro, etc. And then we got into this term, and there started to be quite a difference in regards to the taxation between Ward 1 and Ward 2. And a fire truck is a fire truck, a snowplow is a snowplow, a road is a road, a school is a school, etc. in all cases. And we have to even out the tax base a little bit more. And that is on that aspect.
I'm going to take a segue from that, but also from Councillor Lee.
If we could just run through those questions, because John's dying, and we'll take your question back. Could we... Perhaps members that sit on the area rating might, because that was really your comment.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I make one last quick question if I can, because I know it's late. From Councillor Lee, segue from there. What do you think about the idea?
We haven't all answered your first question.
Oh my gosh, that's good enough. It's not going to.
There's others that sit on the area rating.
Oh, okay. In regards to the area rating, it hasn't been an easy committee. I think we're finally starting to get our Ward 2 representatives finally say, yes, we're looking to have fair and equitable for both wards. We want you paying for what you're getting, the services you're receiving. And from day one, they were saying, well, we're not receiving any more services. Well, you get more fire department budgets, and you're only paying a certain percentage. So I think finally we're starting to come around with them, and they're trying to, I won't say agree 100%, but I think they're trying to see
that doesn't happen. Quickly,
I'm also on the area rating committee and a Ward 2 councillor. One thing that was meant to be sometime before this 12-year period was that this area rating should have been reviewed before, and it wasn't done, and now it's being done. So that's the only thing. We're trying to be responsible in that manner.
And I just want to add to that I'm not on the area rating committee, but I'm very, very happy that finally it is starting to get dealt with, because I don't want to see it go through this term and be the white elephant in the room of the next administration. Like it should have, in my humble opinion, it should have probably been dealt with prior. I'm just happy it's being dealt with now.
Okay. Last thing, again, I'm getting back to you one way or the other. Yeah. The suggestion about the ward system. What about, we want to propose this to you for consideration, not necessarily debate tonight, but would you sit down with us and talk about redoing the wards in the municipality of Port Hope? Because right now we have Ward 1, Ward 2, divisive in itself. The second thing is, in Ward 1, there is a vote for 4 people. The accountability issue strikes me as a lot. So what I'd like to propose is that there be smaller wards so that you're voting for 1 individual and not for 4. I think that's a more accountable, more direct situation. And would you entertain working with us to at least explore that opportunity?
My only comment is let's get policing, area rating, service
I didn't
level
mean
review,
tomorrow.
financial audit plan off the plate, and then.
Okay,
and you're right. In the past, there was talks about ward system going up, so there was rural and urban and everything. I think there was talk. Remember going the other way too, and there has been talk, unfortunately, hasn't moved forward to that point.
I see some nods, so hopefully
Yes.
we can talk about it. Okay, thank you.
John?
John Bowden, Ward 2, Mayor Thompson, and members of council. You mentioned about the amalgamation. I was actually on a committee. I don't think it was the transition committee, but I remember. No, this was between Ward 2, Ward 1. No. Just let me say what I want to say. Larry Hall was on it as a councillor then. Were you on it, Rick? There were several people on it. Jim Hunt was on it when he was on council.
That was the transition board, the rural.
Okay, that's what it was. It was 11 years ago. And I was asked to go on it, and I was quite happy to be there. And when it came to the first meeting, going around the table, how we thought that we would make this thing work of a rural municipality joining with an urban one. So I said, just like in our farm business, with my brother, that we're going to have communication, understanding, trust, and there was a fourth component, and I forgot it. But in many ways, you know, this...
Respect, I think, John.
Respect. Yes, Eileen, that's right. Because I told Eileen about this before. And in the past, you know, I haven't really seen this happen. You know, we have a substantial investment in Ward 2 as a family business. We're always concerned about costs. I'm looking at costs every day. And I'm so confused about what's going on now with various issues like the policing. I must say that we are in favor of leaving Port Hope Police in Ward 1. We're from Ward 2. We have a sign in front of our driveway. We made that decision and looking at a lot of you know, facts and figures. But you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on now. And cost for us as farmers certainly is the bottom line. Every day, really. And this council have to come forward with the right decision with costs, and also I don't see anything wrong right now with the status quo. There's a suggestion here of leaving Port Hope Policeman for 3 years until we can we'll take a second look, step back, and just leave things as they are. What's wrong with a little competition with OPP in Ward 2, Port Hope Police in Ward 1? So, I had another question I was going to ask, but I'm not going to ask it now. I think it's been discussed enough. But, boy, we've all got to come together. And we can't be so site divisive as we've been in the past. And I'm probably one of the oldest ones here. People may not think so. Maybe Rod's a little older.
I remember sitting on a committee when you turned 65, and I couldn't believe you were 65 then.
Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So those are my comments. So I just want the council to be concerned and to bring this community together again. And I don't like hearing about Ward 2 or Hope Township and Port Hope. As I said right at the start 11 years ago, this was my comments about understanding, trust, communication, and respect. And I hope someday we can achieve that.
The speaker. Ted Wall,
on Toronto Road. There's one comment I'd like to make about the policing issue is demographics. Looking around, there's a lot of Q-tips here, same as me, right here. And I think their biggest concern is not really the dollars. I'll throw in $1 a day for keep our Port Hope Police. It's response time, and I've experienced it 3 or 4 times. OPP is anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days, whether it be Bancroft or in Coburg. And in Port Hope, it's been 2 minutes. Like, it's been excellent. And I think a lot of these older people are concerned about if they have a problem, break in, they want it. They don't want to wait 2 days, excuse me, 2 days, 3 days, 2 hours. And I have some friends, OPP, and I have friends, municipality, so I can see both sides. But I don't know, you guys in the ward, too, have you ever experienced any problems with police? Have you ever called the police? You should try it, just, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Very surprised. They won't show up.
Ted, I live on a dead-end road, but I had a truck come up and decide to turn around in my driveway and wiped out my lamp post. It's a block lamp post. Wiped it out and then proceeded to drive away. And my wife happened to be home, saw the name on the side of the truck, so she reported that. We then reported that to the OPP, and within a half an hour, it was a half an hour.
Coming from the donut shop.
It wasn't 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It was a half an hour because it's a good thing. I asked her to report that. Within a half an hour, we were responded to. An OPP officer showed up in the driveway, took record of the company name, and responded to the request. So it was a half an hour. So just so you know. And that was 2 months.
I've experienced a few times.
Ted, I have a little bit of a story to tell you relative to not response time, but just OPP. My wife and I purchased our home on January 5th, but didn't retire until May and June of that year. So we were just coming up on weekends. I happened to take some vacation time in March of that year and brought some packages up to store at the house. I emptied the boxes and took them out to the garage. I had the garage door open and I was breaking down the boxes to take them to recycle in Cambridge. As I was doing this, an OPP cruiser came flying up and stopped right in front of my vehicle, blocking me from obviously exiting at any point in time. And the OPP officer, she asked me to identify myself. I identified myself, and she asked me what I was doing. I said, it's funny. I said, I'm just putting some boxes in the car. Do you want to get up and help? And her response was, no, but you don't live here. And I said, actually, I do. I own the house. And she said, no, and because of confidentiality, I won't say who the former owners were, but she gave me the names of the former owners. And I said, no, actually, we bought the house from them on January 5th. They've moved next door. Her comment was, hell, X and Y didn't tell me that they'd moved. But the interesting part was, on my way home that night, I made the comment when I got home to Cambridge, I'm feeling a little bit better about at least our house is being looked after, rather than sitting out there while we're not there, maybe 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Somebody at least knows who lives in that house or lived in that house. I've lived in communities, Kingston Township, which was OPP. I've lived in Barrie and other municipalities that are municipal police services. I have no problem in response times from either the professional people.
Quite fortunate.
Sorry?
You're quite fortunate. There's some people that just aren't lucky.
I understand. I've heard horror stories as well.
Another quick question. How come the 3 that live in Ward 2 on one side of the fence, the 3 that live in town the other? Like, why isn't there a mix? You guys don't even sit together. It's always split.
I'm the only chair available when I came in.
Well, that's one thing.
Ted, I think, as Jeff said, depending on what the issue, and I'm sorry we sat down in a certain order.
It's okay, that's all.
I sit beside Garden Hill every Tuesday night.
No, I think that's the demographics you should really consider, because I know a lot of people I've talked to, they'll pay an extra $1 a day. Keep the police. I know. Talking pennies. Thank you.
I know we're almost out of time, but this is very quick. The concern is costs and the new building and so on. I attended one meeting where you, Councillor Turk, spoke about funding from the government to possibly build a new facility, and I think there's land that was donated.
Yes, there is on the table right now from Frank Laurier, land that could be possibly available for Port Hope Police. And second to that, we're still waiting to hear from Senator Duffy last April at one of the conferences I was down to in Ottawa for the police services. Had mentioned there would be some infrastructure dollars coming soon. So if you were planning new police facilities, get your plans up and ready so that they're shovel ready. So that has been mentioned to the municipality and to council, and we are still waiting for the federal government to tip their hat, but if it happens, and the same comment made earlier tonight about fire and police, yes, that's another option. Okay.
Can I say one thing before everyone goes? Please.
Tip the mic down here.
I've heard talk of people, Lori, Port Hope Township. I've heard talk of people would like to have a 3-year trial. What happens at the end of 3 years? Are we back right here again?
That's right.
What doesn't happen then? 3 years, it doesn't matter. We're just right back where we started. Or am I wrong on this? That's all I want to know.
This will be the last question.
Yeah, if council will allow, I just have one quick question. I just wonder, in April, across Street, Port Hope, and I just wonder, in the event that option 4 succeeds tomorrow evening, we hear that we're not to anticipate increase in taxes and all of that over the next several years. However, when prices do, or costs do increase with the OPP, which I think for the majority of us, we believe that to be what will happen. What kind of a plan does council have in respect to the additional costs that will be going out if they're not intending to increase taxes?
That would be true no matter what police service is moved forward. You can say, oh, all you want, but the reality is costs go up, and the business plan of the Port Hope Police Service has had a 4% increase annually built into it. Thank you everyone for coming this evening. We appreciate it.
Oh, I love it.